Welcome to September. Gosh, yep, here we are. The fall. It is upon us. Wow. What? That's how I feel. What? Come on. What? Yeah. And I frequently have conversations with myself just like that. And it's actually, in those conversations that I can check in with what's actually going on for me in any given moment, what the invitation is that my mind is kind of wrestling with behind the scenes, and to bring forward the pieces that I actually want to take on. Like, what is my mind wrestling with that I actually want to take on? And so clearly, in this particular moment, it's like, what? Where have I been this summer? Where have I actually been? That's not for this conversation, but just wanted to share with you where we're going is the story of learning. And so even right there, I'm like, that's one of the ways that I discern for myself where I want to put my attention with my learning. I am one of those people, and if you're connected to me, I suspect you probably are one of these people too, that kind of gets that you're a lifelong learner. And there might be a sense of pride in that. Or there might be, like, certainly for me, a sense of overwhelm with that. I've been accused along the way of being, addicted to shiny things, like the raven that just gets distracted by shiny things. And while I hear that, and I do hear that, where I've framed that for myself and what actually feels truthful to me about that is that it's not a distraction for me. It's an excitement for me. It's an intrigue for me. I frequently jump off of high diving boards of the unknown to devour what's in the water. What learning is there for me? And it can be an overwhelming experience because I am genuinely interested in lots of things. So, in the story of learning, to start off, what I invite you to explore is, how do you discern where to put your learning attention? How do you discern which diving board of the unknown are you on? What diving board are you climbing up to? Like, what stairs make sense for you to be climbing up to get off that diving board into the unknown? As well, another question to consider in your own story of learning is, what perspective do you hold that seems to attract these questions that you want to jump into? So, a metaphor for this is like, which aquatic center, if we're going to play with this diving board, idea, like, which aquatic center are you in? And I ask you this because, again, as someone who is a lifelong learner and self identifies that way and self identifies as curious in all the things, I recognize it's not actually all the things that I'm curious about. And I'm not interested or distractible by all the things, despite popular um, narration of my life from other people. I'm not highly distractible by all the things. I am not the raven that needs to chase all the shiny things. But what I am is someone who gets distracted on purpose by all the things that live in my aquatic center. So, what's your aquatic center? What is the pool? What are the multiple pools of learning that that become shiny things for you? What is that for you? And I encourage you to own that. That you're not someone who, gets taken off the path of your life by all the things you want to do, but rather you're someone who's on the path of all the things you want to do, but you start to notice, all these different patches that you can play in that are connected to the path that you're on. So this story of learning, if you have worked with me before, you know that I firmly plant my flag, if you will, or hang my shingle on the door of the work of the unknown. That for me, the story of learning is about feeling comfortable in surrender, feeling comfortable in emergence, feeling comfortable in what I would call like the divine placement of information that is for you, that you've kind of called in for yourself, that as you live on the story of you, what I call core story work, as you live in the core story of your being, that the learning that is here for you is always right there on the path. And that as you start to look back on your life and track the various experiences you've had, you can start to connect the dots of this core story of you and how all of these experiences are part of that learning journey that expands you into who you already are and who you are already growing into, which is a much larger conversation. And I apologize, I just tapped the mic with my hand. So when you hear that, I'm sorry. That there's an element of timelessness in the story of our being, all that we are that was here before we got here, and all that we are that will be here after we're gone is already in play. And so this journey of learning for you and in this expansion of the unknown, as you jump off the diving board into all these different topics of the things that really capture your attention, and you try to make time for, so you can jump into these experiences that you've had that have been, that you might name as positive or negative. They are actually neither positive nor negative. They are simply gates of your own expansion. And that learning is to bring you even closer to your conscious understanding of all that's available to you, for you, as you. So, in today's conversation about learning, know that why am I here is because I'm working on my thesis. And my thesis, as I become an expressive arts therapist, my thesis is the therapeutic invitation of being on the spot. And then the tagline of that is performance itself as an expressive arts therapy modality. And when I work with authors, I open up to them that their journey with me is going to be about dancing in what I call the unanswerable question. And that their journey of learning is actually what their writing is about. And you've probably heard me say this before, that when we write about what we know, the writing's flat. There's no life force in it. There's no bridge between the writer to the reader, because what we know doesn't have curiosity in it. But when we write from the place of what we don't know, or we write from the present moment, meaning we're speaking from the now, the next moment hasn't happened yet. So that in itself brings the writing alive. Writing in the present moment already incorporates the unknown. So that's where I am right now in my own, work in my thesis. Do I have a knowing that I believe to be true? Yep. And it is that creating work, bringing what is private into personal, into public. So a story that lives inside us, an autobiographical piece, if you will, but it doesn't even have to be about you. It can be fiction. Even fiction comes from a deeply resonant place inside of us somewhere. And that in itself is the private. And then we create it for the public. And that journey has a transformational result for the author. And then, of course, my work as a stage performer, as a storyteller, as an actor, follows that same pattern from private to personal to public. And then the fourth level is what I'm referring to as the divine. Somebody else might call it magical. Somebody else, might call it the liminal, the mystical space. And certainly in expressive arts therapy, they call it the third, where the third arrives. And that's when we make art. Just you and I making art together invites the third to be present, which is this otherness that happens within the bubble that we are in as well. And so you might think that writing a thesis is actually writing about what we know, and it kind of is, but it's also so not. It is so not. And for this work to live and breathe and have some edge and risk and yumminess and magic and invitation for the reader, even though it's in academic language, in meaning we are citing, we are pointing at the proof that says this is possibly true. So while I am pulling forth all of the information I can find in form, like form meaning as in it's been proven already or said by another, person, and they've proved it, if you will. So I'm pulling in these matter of fact kind of things. I'm pulling in these matter of fact voices to talk about the unknown. And I'm firmly placing myself in the slippery waters of I don't know, and let's go find out. In that, there's an element of surprise, a willingness to be surprised, a willingness, and I don't really like this wording, but I invite it for you because it feels risky, I think. Like to I'm writing from a place of what if I'm wrong? And I just don't like right or wrong because I think even right or wrong puts a hierarchy on knowledge. It's not about right or wrong because who says it's right or wrong? It's more about, is this real? Is this livable? Has it been lived? If it hasn't been lived, how do we bring it forward so it can be lived and we can speak to it in a human way beyond theory? I love story. You know that story is a devotional practice for me. And in my work as a thesis writer, I'm in my own story journey. I'm in my own learning journey. I am, and how does it feel? I'm just checking in. How's it feel? It feels yummy. It feels boring. It feels overwhelming. It feels exciting. I just finished an interview with TJ Daw and his work as a solo show holder and a performer and creator, as a theater creator. And I got off that call and I actually can't write because I was so flooded with so much excitement and joy and um, I'm just going to call it muchness. That I'm like, whew, I can't write now. I've just got to be with this beautiful information. And so it feels like that. And it is the great land of the unknown. It is the great land of learning. So today, as you lean into this month of September, into the story of learning, I invite you to explore for you, what does learning mean for you? Have you liked it? Has it sucked? Because it can suck, right? School can be really stinky. Learning stuff in this right wrong binary can be really awful. What is learning for you? And where would you like learning to live for you? And then for you as a writer, where does learning live? Where does the unknown live? How are you in that place? What's your story of learning? So thanks for tuning in to this month's Story of Learning. And I'll be sharing with you the bits and pieces from my thesis as I continue to, bring it forward. And yeah, for those of you going back to school or have kids or whatever, nieces, nephews, whatever, that are going back to school, get on the wave, friends, because September is a big month of transition. And I invite you to enjoy it. Just get on the wave and play. All right, everybody. Happy September. Happy story of learning.